F. Scott Fitzgerald, A Biography, Introduction. Francis Scott Key. Fitzgerald remains one of America's most enduring literary figures, celebrated as the quintessential chronicler of the jazz age and an acute observer of wealth, class, and the American dream. Despite a life marked by personal struggles and financial difficulties, Fitzgerald's work captured the spirit and contradictions of the roaring 1920s and beyond, influencing generations of writers and readers. This biography explores Fitzgerald's early years, his rise as a writer, and the legacy of his work. Early years and formative influences. Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald was born on September 24, 1896, in St. Paul, Minnesota, into a family with a distinguished, if somewhat mixed, social heritage. His middle names connected him to his distant relative Francis Scott Key, composer of the Star-Spangled Banner, reflecting a lineage he took pride in. Fitzgerald's father came from an affluent family, but had experienced financial ups and downs as a business person, while his mother was of Southern aristocratic descent. From an early age, Fitzgerald sensed the allure of wealth and status, themes that would permeate his writing. Growing up in the Midwest, he attended prestigious preparatory schools, including the St. Paul Academy, where he excelled in writing and drama. He was a bright student, but somewhat socially awkward, dreaming of distinction. At age 14, Fitzgerald began writing stories, developing his craft through school magazines and local publications. His adolescent years were shaped by a fascination with literature, particularly the works of Henry James, Joseph Conrad, and H.G. Wells, which steeped him in modernist sensibilities and narrative experimentation. In 1913, Fitzgerald enrolled at Princeton University, joining the famous class of 1917. Princeton was a site of intense social and literary activity. Fitzgerald thrived in its animalistic clubs, newspaper, and literary society. His early short stories, poems, and sketches began appearing in college publications. However, his college years were not academically distinguished. Fitzgerald struggled with focus and health, and eventually left before graduating to join the Army during World War I. Though Fitzgerald's military service in World War I lasted only briefly within the United States, it profoundly shaped his literary outlook. The war's promise and the subsequent disillusionment became seminal motifs. After the armistice, he returned to New York, determined to become a professional writer. In 1920, Fitzgerald finished his first novel, This Side of Paradise, a semi-autobiographical coming-of-age story that reflected youth disillusionment and romantic entanglements. The book's success was immediate and spectacular. It made Fitzgerald a celebrity and symbolized the voice of a new generation, often called the Lost Generation. The public embraced Fitzgerald's style, lyrical, witty, and frank about youth's anxieties and excesses. His portrayal of affluent young Americans, disenchanted, reckless, yet searching for meaning, resonated deeply with the post-war cultural upheaval. Critics sometimes dismiss the novel as thin or overly self-indulgent, but its popularity established Fitzgerald's place in American letters. Fitzgerald's early short stories, published in magazines like the Saturday Evening Post and Esquire, further developed his themes of romance, decadence, and social mobility. He learned to tailor his style to commercial outlets, honing a prose that could be both polished and accessible. Financial instability, however, concerned him throughout this period. Like many writers, he depended heavily on magazine assignments and disliked the pressures they imposed. The 1920s, often called the Jazz Age, became Fitzgerald's era. His circle included other expatriate writers and artists in New York and Paris, including Ernest Hemingway and Gertrude Stein. Fitzgerald's life, marked by lavish parties and social ambition, was as much a source of public fascination as his writing. In 1925, Fitzgerald published The Great Gatsby, which many consider his masterpiece. Set in the summer of 1922, the novel chronicled the life and tragic downfall of J. Gatsby, a mysteriously wealthy man who pursues an impossible dream of love and social acceptance. Through Gatsby and narrator Nick Carraway, Fitzgerald painted a portrait of the American dream's contradictions, its glittering promises, and underlying corruption. Initially, The Great Gatsby received lukewarm reviews and modest sales. Yet over time, scholars and readers recognized its intricate symbolism, narrative craftsmanship, and profound social critique. It embodied the jazz era's energy and excess, as well as the era's moral ambiguity and spiritual emptiness. Fitzgerald followed the novel with Tender is the Night, 1934, a less commercially successful but ambitious exploration of psychological and social decay among the wealthy elite. The book reflected his own struggles with relationships and alcoholism, personal themes woven throughout his fiction. Financial pressures in the decline of the Roaring Twenties hit Fitzgerald hard with the onset of the Great Depression. His lavish lifestyle, health issues, and alcoholism worsened. Fitzgerald moved increasingly into screenwriting in Hollywood to support his family, but found little satisfaction in the work. His marriage to Zelda Sayer, once a glamorous symbol of the jazz age, deteriorated amid mental health crises and infidelity. Their turbulent relationship and eventual separations deeply affected his writing and personal life. Despite these difficulties, Fitzgerald continued to write prolifically, producing short stories and essays for magazines. He also worked on a final unfinished novel, The Last Tycoon, which some critics view as an autobiographical meditation on fame and artistic compromise. Ernest Hemingway once described Fitzgerald as the great American writer who created a new literary language for his time. His innovations in style, combining vivid brevity with evocative imagery, and his exploration of themes like lost ideals, social change, and the search for identity helped define American modernism. The Great Gatsby remains a staple in American education and popular culture, symbolizing critiques of consumerism and American history. Fitzgerald's influence extends beyond literature to music, film, and fashion, embodying the allure and dangers of the jazz age social scene. Recent scholarship has re-evaluated Fitzgerald's work from multiple perspectives, including gender, race, and class, revealing richer and more complex dimensions of his narratives and characters. Conclusion: Ernest Hemingway's story, starting with his youth in the Midwest, his rise as a voice of his generation, and his complex legacy, captures the American spirit of aspiration, creativity, and contradiction. From early enthusiasm and dazzling success to later struggles and tragic demise, Fitzgerald's life and work continue to fascinate and challenge readers. His writing, defined by its clarity, depth, and emotional resonance, holds a permanent place in the catalog of American literature and cultural history. Do not use any music for this video.